if I'm starting a new job, or if I'm doing something within a group of people like group work at school. Is this something that I should disclose or keep to myself? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Here is a place that we can advocate for disability inclusion to make the world just a little bit brighter. My name is Janelle, and today I'm wearing a sage slash dark green shirt that says Royal Family Kids 2019. That is the camp that I volunteered for kids in foster care. And the background is that I am in my room. So today I want to talk about disclosure, specifically the pros and cons of disclosure. Oftentimes when you have a disability, you kind of have to sit there and weigh the options on um, if I'm starting a new job, or if I'm doing something within a group of people like group work at school. Is this something that I should disclose or keep to myself? And sometimes it's really hard to figure out which one to do. So I've created a short list of pros and cons to try to help you out with your decision. If you want to disclose, here are some reasons you should, or maybe want to not disclose. And then if you want to not disclose, here are some pros to that, and here's some cons to that. So let's get into it. Okay, so some pros about disclosure. We'll start with disclosure first. We'll start with the pros. The pros are that you can get it off your chest if you have a disability, especially, if it's something that's more like you're neurodivergent, or something that's kind of hidden that people can't just tell right away when they look at you. Sometimes it's just good to get it off your chest and say, hey, you know, I have this, or I'm dealing with this. And that way you don't have to worry about trying to hide it or trying to mask or trying to make yourself seem like you're not dealing with that. Sometimes it's just really good to get it off your chest. The second pro on disclosure is that you get some potential support. You get accommodations at work. You are able to kind of, say like, hey, I have this appointment, and it kind of helps your employer know the reason that you might be out more frequently than others, or just different things like that. If you're working within school, like a school project, it might be able to help you out with accommodations as well, to be able to give your input within the group work, within the group project, but also make it fair for you. Or for example, in school, if you need more time taking tests or a separate room, being able to just disclose that will give you that freedom, give you that liberty to get the potential support that you need. The third pro to disclosure is that you don't have to mask. You don't have to worry about trying to suppress or make it not seem like you are dealing with what you're dealing with. So, for example, if you're autistic, or if you have Tourette syndrome, um, especially if you have Tourette syndrome, I know because I have Tourette syndrome, you trying to suppress and not tick or make it seem like you're ticking takes out a lot of brain work. And it's just easier if you just disclose it, so you don't have to worry about that. You can focus on your work, you can focus on your project, you can focus on your schoolwork. And I think that's a good benefit when it comes to disclosing. Some cons to disclosing are what we'll talk about next. Some of the negative things that may come about when you do disclose that you have a disability. Of course, the first con, and probably the biggest, is that you get judgment or bias. So, for example, if you're going into a job interview for a new job and they don't know you, they haven't, gotten the chance to meet with you before, if you disclose right off the bat, which legally you're not required to by the ADA, they can't discriminate. It does still happen though. It may be something that people see and automatically have a judgment, a bias, a stereotype about what your condition should look like, or can or can't do. And so, for example, if you go into an interview and you say, oh, by the way, I have ADHD, they might assume certain things about you, that things that you can do at work, that you can't do at work, and just decide to go with a more qualified participant. That does happen sometimes, so that is kind of annoying. Another thing with school, for example, the teacher might have certain internalized biases towards that, or judgments towards that, and it might be reflected in how they treat you, or might be reflected in how they grade you, or just anything like that. That's a potential, probably the biggest reason people don't want to disclose. There's potential that it could happen. The second con, I would say, is you might be treated differently. If you started at a job or you started at a school and hadn't disclosed, and then you now have disclosed, people might treat you differently. You might see the way they used to treat you versus how they treat you now. They might try to walk on eggshells around you. They might try to, you know, just speak to you differently, treat you differently, and that can be definitely a con because people assume that there's things you can or can't do, and that might be something that can start to get on your nerves if you don't feel like always having to explain that, hey, you don't have to treat me that way, or hey, you don't have to do that, I can do that. um, this is a potential con that could come from disclosing. And the third con I have for disclosing is you might get continued questions about it. And which is fine, you know, there are some people that are very open and are happy to answer questions if people are wanting to learn. But also there are times that it's like, this is all you come to talk to me about now. Now that I've told you that I have OCD, for example, or now that I've told you that I've had Tourette's syndrome, now the only thing you want to ask me about is that. And that can take away from productivity at work or at school, or kind of put you on the spot. You know, if you're in the break room at work and one person asks and there's three other people in the room, now everybody's looking at you. Or at school, you know, the teacher might point something out and now the whole class is looking at you. Um, Constant questions. There are just days sometimes that you don't want to deal with educating the whole world on it all day, every day, and that's valid. That is a potential con, as well as them asking questions on if you can or can't do this, if you can or can't do that, um, without kind of having that boundary of knowing, you know, okay, maybe I should stop asking this person these questions. Sometimes people don't have that in their head, so that could be a potential con. Now let's talk about the pros for not disclosing. So this would be you deciding to not tell anybody that you have a disability at work or at school. The first pro I would say is that you get to keep your own confidentiality. That's your business. Don't nobody gonna know about your business. And you don't have to worry about people having that judgment or bias, which was the biggest reason in the cons for disclosing, or the biggest potential reason. And you're able to just say, you know, whatever you want, do what you need to do, and people don't have to know. And you don't have to fear judgment. That is a very strong pro that people usually think of when they decide to not disclose um, that they have a disability. The second pro I would say is it gives the person the opportunity to prove themselves at work. So let's just say maybe later on down the line, they do want to disclose. They can at least say, hey, look, I've been able to do these assignments, I've been able to do these projects in school, and they can show that, yes, I may have autism or ADHD or OCD, Tourette syndrome, whatever the case may be. But you saw time and time again what I've proven that I can do, um, which could be really beneficial, like I said, if they do decide that they want to disclose later on down the line. Or, you know, just kind of help change your employers or your classmates or your teachers' perspectives on what that disability can look like. Because most of the time, these conditions are kind of a spectrum. And now I will talk about the cons for not disclosing. So, not choosing to tell your employer, your coworkers, your classmates, your teachers that you have a disability. So, the first con, which is really hefty, is that it is so taxing, or it can be so taxing and tiring on your health, on your mental health. Um, I know for me, for example, with Rett syndrome, when I did not disclose for the longest time, it was so much work physically to try to not show or make it not seem like I was ticking. And you're focused on that, so you're not really focused on what's happening. You miss out on stuff. Um, Sometimes maybe, you know, you have a flare up in whatever your disability may be, and these events or these social activities that you had planned, you have to skip out because you're tired, quote unquote, or some other excuse, and then you miss out and you feel bad. So it can definitely be toxic on your emotional health as well. It can impact all areas of your life, as most disabilities do, anyways. But disclosing it and continuing to try to hide it can definitely um, make it harder on you, on your mental health, and on your body as well, for sure. The second con I have is if your disability causes you to be out of work for a certain amount of time or out of work often, it can lead your coworkers, or the same thing with school, it can lead your teachers, it can lead the administration to believe that you're not really being productive, or you're not doing what you can, and that can cause negative consequences on your work performance, on your school performance. Um, You might have to be like pulled in to say, hey, like, why are you not showing up? Why do you have so many appointments? Or why are you out so much? And could potentially lose your job. Um, I mean, of course, you're not supposed to lose your job over your disability. That's discrimination. But if your employer doesn't know, I don't know how much that would apply. Because in the employer's eyes, it's just you don't show up at work, or you're always late to work. Maybe you had an appointment in the morning for your disability, or it takes you longer if you have OCD, and it takes you longer to get to work because of all your morning rituals. And so your coworker just thinks that you, or your boss just thinks that you're not, wanting to come to work on time, and so you get punished for that. That is a potential con of not disclosing. The third and final con that I have for not disclosing that you have a disability at work or at school is that you may not receive the accommodations that you need. I know for school, it would be really great. For example, like I said earlier, if you need a separate room for testing or different accommodations in the classroom, if you're not disclosing that, you don't have an IEP or 504, then you can't really get that help you need. And it just makes it a lot harder to do things, to do your work, to pay attention in class. With work, if you're not able to get the work accommodations that you need, it can make it really tough for you to show and prove yourself that you can do the work with some accommodations. If you don't have any, it's kind of hard to do that. So I think that is a big con for not disclosing your disability. So there are some pros and some cons to disclosing and not disclosing that you have a disability. Of course, ultimately, the decision is up to you on what you want to do with whatever the situation is, at work, at school, at camp, who knows. It is ultimately up to you. But I hope that these pros and cons were a little more helpful for you, kind of help you sit back and evaluate what you want to do. If you do feel like you would like to disclose, you're trying to figure out how to do that, go check out over here. I made this video on tips on disclosing to coworkers, classmates, administration, and bosses. Hopefully that helps. Thank you guys so much. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all the fun things. I love getting to talk with you guys. I love seeing your comments. I love seeing what you have to say. And definitely share with a friend to make the world just a little bit better. Thanks, guys. Shine bright.